Hey Kipsters, welcome back. I hope you are having an excellent day. We are moving into learning about the governments of ancient Greece and Rome. So let's get started. Today, Kipsters will be able to define democratic governments by tracing the development of the democratic government to the ancient Greeks and Romans. So we live in a democracy. Someday you'll have a chance to be a part of and change our government, so you need to know how it developed. The way that you're going to be able to impact our government and our world is by voting and using your voice. In order for you to have quality work today, your guided notes are completely filled out. You have compared and contrasted Greek and Rome, and then checked your work. So let's start with democracy. A democracy means rule by the people. There are two types of democracies that we're going to look at today. The first one is a direct democracy. In a direct democracy, citizens vote or come to a consensus on the laws and issues directly. So they vote on the laws and the issues directly. In a representative democracy, citizens vote for representatives to vote on the laws and issues for them. So in a representative democracy, citizens vote for the people who are going to vote on the laws and the issues for them. So they don't vote directly on the laws, they vote for the people. But in a direct democracy, they vote directly on the laws. The first government we're going to look at is the Greek government. So Athens, Greece was known as the birthplace of democracy. In Athens, they had a direct democracy where the people voted on the laws and issues directly. So they had a direct democracy in Athens. And the people who voted on the laws and issues directly, or the voters, were known as the assembly. And the assembly was made up of every male citizen in Athens. Every male citizen in Athens. So if you were a woman, you couldn't vote. If you were a slave or a servant, you couldn't vote. It was only made up of the male citizens in Athens. And those are the people who voted on the laws directly in their direct democracy. The Roman Republic was another kind of democracy. So in Rome, they had a representative democracy called a republic. The reason it was a little bit different was because they had two heads up at the top called the consul, two heads of government. Then they had the Senate, which were the noble and wealthy families. And the noble and wealthy families made the laws and controlled the spending. And then everybody else down at the bottom was the assembly. Just like in Athens, Greece, there was an assembly here in Rome, and this was made up of the common man, or the common citizens, and they had the right to vote for their leaders. So they didn't have a right to vote for the laws or the spending, but they had the right to vote for their leaders, which is why it's a representative democracy. So they voted on the people who would lead the government instead of the laws directly. So the Roman Republic was a representative democracy. What I'd like you to do is spend the next 3 to 5 minutes filling out your compare and contrast diagram. So you're going to go ahead and put in Rome all the different things that the Roman government had. Under the Greece side, you're going to put all the different things that made up the Greek government. And right there in the middle, you're going to put all the things that they had in common. Go ahead and take the next 5 or so minutes to fill out everything you can think of for these two governments. Teammates, if you're not done, go ahead and pause the video and continue comparing and contrasting Greece and Rome. If you are done, we're going to go ahead and move on and check our work. So when I'm looking at my work, there's a few things I should notice. Rome should have a representative democracy. It has a consul, which are the heads of the government. It has the Senate, which made up the laws and controlled the spending. And then it had the assembly, but the assembly voted for leaders. So I know that both of them had the assembly, which I can put in the middle, but I wanted to mention that the assembly specifically voted for the leaders in Rome. In Greece, we have a direct democracy. The assembly, which was made up of all of the male citizens of Rome, voted for the laws directly. So I wanted to mention here that they voted for the laws, whereas in Rome they voted for the leaders. And every male voted on the laws. So the assembly was made up of every male citizen. Another thing I could put under Greece if I wanted to was that Athens was known as the birthplace of democracy. So it was the first place or the birthplace of democracy. Then in the middle, the two things that they had in common were that the citizens had the right to vote. So people had the right to vote either on laws or on a representative, and both of them had an assembly made up of all of my male citizens. That's it for today, Kipsters. Go ahead and continue working until it's time to move, and have a wonderful day.